Hi, fellow traders. Hope everybody had a great money-making Monday. No, it was a little bit disappointing for me. I like the gap downs in the morning, and didn't have any on my scan. Everything on my scan were gap ups, and I just have a mental block against going long now for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's just there, and I just want to short everything in sight. But still turned out to be an okay day. I enjoyed it. It's a little grind, but that's what makes this job more interesting. But I could sit here and talk about all the successes that I've had and point you to them. There's still videos out there of the interviews I did coming up. My blog is out there that documented my growth. But the truth of the matter is, as a professional trader, I've fallen short time after time. I've had losing trades because I wasn't patient or disciplined enough to follow the rules. I've had losing trades when I did have the patience and discipline to follow the rules. Too many to really even count. But the truth is, all of us, no matter how much or how little experience we have, we're always going to be a work in progress, more so than we're going to be a success story. That's just the nature of our profession. We must be in a constant growth mode. The market, whether you believe it or not, is a living, breathing entity that has no mercy or conscience. Like Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank says, I don't know if you watched that show or not, said it'll crush you like the cockroach that you are. And it then moves on to the next victim without a thought. Now I've said this in the past, and it's something that I still rely on today. I started doing recap videos a few years ago so that I can put out there what I'm doing and others can see what I'm doing and possibly give me feedback. Whether it was good, bad, indifferent, didn't matter. I just wanted to continue to get better. Every time someone would share legitimate criticism or analysis, I would read it. And I would take a step back and look at it from outside of myself. Now, I'm going to share something I got this past week. Kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, this guy, he made some comments on my video. And I tried to copy and paste these things, but somehow they disappeared. But I know exactly what he said. So the first one, he said, I learned a lot from watching you the last few years. Sometimes I think you make covers a little early. MNK hadn't even put in a green candle, and you had already covered all your shares. That's pretty much what he was saying. Now, he's not wrong. He's 100% right. MNK had not put in a green candle, and I was already done. I was out the trade, up almost $300. And yeah, I could have made almost $600 had I continued going. But then he goes on to say, from my back testing, I found out that I wasn't allowing the trade to work fully before making my first sales or covers out of fear that I would end up, letting some come back and break me. So again, and here's the here's a trade he's talking about. Okay, and he makes a valid point. But to explain to you what I'm doing, I'm trying to teach new traders or traders that's been going on for a while and have not been able to make a profit at all consistently, how to do it. And what we're doing is we're building a foundation. So when you're new or you haven't had the education or the training, you're not going to understand how to read price action. So you're not really going to understand what you're looking at and when you should cover and when you shouldn't based on the price action. So what I teach is to pick a spot based on either, in this case, this was a 52-week low. There was nothing up under here. So all we were going to do is use whole and half dollar marks or the $quarter marks. It just so happens that this kind of worked out in the $quarter mark range, and that's what I used. But the key is to nail your entry and hit your targets. Hit your profit targets. When you first start, that's what you need to do. That's the first thing. And what that's going to do is that's going to help you build confidence. Now, what if you are a new trader, you're just starting out, you're just starting to learn how to trade live money, and you're comfortable trading this setup, you get in and you have your trade plan. You made a viable trade plan. You hit your targets and you get out. That's a winning trade. You can't let this get to you. You can't. Now I know I let it get to me a little bit. That's only human. I'm natural. I'm a real person. You know, I'm gonna bitch about it. You know, if I feel bad about it. But I was fully expecting this to bounce at some point and give me another entry. It never did on the 5-minute. So this was just unfortunate. I did my plan. I tried to demonstrate to you how you need to just hit your targets, take your money, and wait for the retest so you can enter. Wait for the rejection, the test and rejection, and enter. Now, I went back and looked at this, and had I been watching the 2-minute chart, I would have been in this, back in this. So my goal was to nail these marks, wait for the retest, get back in it, and nail a move again. Okay, but also, if I was trying to demonstrate how to read price action, and now we're going to get into that in the class. In the day trading class, we're going to talk about how to read price action and how to determine whether a stock is changing direction or not. Whether it's likely to change direction, or if it's trying to change, or if this is where you need to lighten up a little bit so you can lock in some profit. You're not watching your P&L. You're not watching it go up and down or anything. What you're doing is you're nailing your points. And that's what I did. I nailed my points on this. So when we get to the next step, you know, stage 2 or 3, then we're going to be reading price action. We'll probably have a little bit more. You know, I could have gone 500 shares and I probably would have, you know, worked this out a lot longer. But when you first start, you're starting with small size and you're starting to develop your skill. You're building that foundation so that if you get lost, and let's say this price action just gets your head all screwed up and you're seeing things that's not there, you have a foundation to go back to where you build a trading plan, you set profit targets, and you nail them. The hell with what the chart's doing. You're nailing your profit targets and you're going home with almost $300 in profit. I could have stopped that day and that would have been it for me. But of course, this big move I missed got into my head and I started stop out once, stop out twice before I finally got the move. But you know, it's all about where you are in your trading. And you always, no matter what, if somebody gives you good, solid feedback with this is why I think that, it's great to look. It's great to listen to. It's great to look at it and take it in. Now, somebody just sent me something and said, you're garbage. You know, how could you trade like that? You know, I just erase it. I mean, it doesn't do me any good. It doesn't help me. Tell me why and let me see what you see. But no, that's part of it. The other thing he said, he didn't understand why I was still using SureTrader. What you guys already know, I'm using it because most of you are using it, especially here in the United States, and you don't have, 25 grand. I do have Speed Trader. I do have USAA brokerage account. That's my retirement that I, make long-term investment trades out of. But for day trading, I'm trying to show people who start out just like me, just like average guy. And our slogan this for 2017 was start where you are with what you have. And that's what I did, and that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. If you build a foundation, you have the patience, you take your time, and you build that foundation, you're going to be able to fish the rest of your life. You're always going to have this to fall back on. You're not going to be taking more risk trying to read price action in something that can fool you, because as you'll see as we get further along in the class, the whole purpose of these hedge fund managers and these institutional traders is really to fool people, because that's how they make their money. And we are in a good position because we can adapt and adjust a lot quicker, because we're dealing with smaller sizes, and we're right there and we can adapt right there on the fly. But I do use other brokers, but I'm using SureTrader because I want you guys to see what problems you're gonna have. Like today, when we look at my trade, I overtraded, and that killed me in commissions. Now, the way SureTrader works, I am at the point where I'm getting $3.95 per trade minimum, but that doesn't kick in until after the trades have settled. So during the day, when I look at this, it's taking out the normal $4.95 commissions and all of that stuff. You get whatever your rate is, you're going to get on the back end. So during the day, everything's going to be based on that $4.95. So when I share my trades and I'm showing you my P&L from the end of the day, it's actually based on the $4.95, the max that commissions that you can see, that you would pay. Some of you will be paying that because you can't trade 250,000 shares. You're not at that point yet. So I want this to be as realistic. I mean, it is real. So I want you to know it. People got mad because I've gotten a little negative because I've had an issue here and there. But, I apologize for that. But that's just what happens. We have to deal with this stuff. And you're talking about my hard-earned money. I'm gonna fight a little bit. But come to find out, it was all my fault anyway. So the only person I can kick is me. And I tried it, but I'm too old to kick myself in the backside again. So can't do that anymore. But then he finishes up, says, thanks for being the only transparent guy out there, though your room is lucky to have you. And this is just the latest one I've had. But I've gotten a lot of these over the last couple of years. And this is what really helps out. Now, what I was disappointed about was this guy. I mean, I don't know who he is, but he says he's in the room. But he says he struggles with covering too early because of fear. And he says he thinks that fear is a bit made of my teaching. Now, one thing I don't teach is fear. And I try to eliminate that by telling you, don't look at your P&L. You make your trade plan and you hit your spots. When you do that, that's going to create confidence. Now, once you're confident in sticking to your trade plan, you're disciplined, then you can move on to a little bit more difficult, or a little bit more degree of difficulty. Because when you start trading and you're trying to read price action and you're trying to get the max out of every move, then you have to be at a point where you're confident in your decision making and sticking to your plan. And if you're not, you're going to blow up. You're going to get crushed like one of those little roaches that Mr. Wonderful talks about. You know, and then the other thing that is cut off of this, he says often in chat he hears that something doesn't have any follow through, and that's something he doesn't understand. I mean, follow through is straightforward. Either the stock follows through to your final target or it doesn't. So I have targets set, and I may hit my first target and it may not make it to the second target. So the stock didn't follow through on that move. I mean, it either does follow through to the final target or it doesn't. No, that has nothing to do with fear. You know, if I was scared to trade, I wouldn't make any money at all. I wouldn't be here right now. I mean, and I'm gonna show, you know, in a minute, you'll see a trade I still have on that if I was scared, I would never have taken this trade. But, you know, if you have fear, that's not what I teach. And if that's what you're getting from it, then we need to talk about it, because that's not what you should be developing. You should be developing a foundation and confidence in developing a trade plan and executing it and hitting your marks. And then once you're able to do that and you have that confidence, then you can move on to, you know, reading price action and adjusting your trade plan as you go. But you have to be at a certain level to do that. And if you can't be profitable, you know, just hitting marks, then you're not going to be profitable trying to read price action. You're just going to lose more money. I've seen it happen time and time and time again. All right, so let's get into my trades from today. The first trade I took was on MAT. Now, this was up on a rumor. Okay, there was no confirmed news out that Hasbro was interested or that they received an unsolicited bid or whatever. So usually when this happens, at the open, this thing sells off like hotcakes. But unfortunately, today, you know, like I said, I was just trying to find something too short. I was determined to find something that was going to be a good short. And I really thought this was going to be it. It opened weak. I waited for that first 2-minute candle to print. We were still weak, so I got in. It set the 5-minute opening range low, and it never could break it. Now, here's something that I got from, like I said, taking critiques, taking information from other traders. And oftentimes in the room, I hear somebody say it's hitting the 100-day on the 5-minute chart, or it's hitting the 50 on the 50-day on the 5-minute chart. So I don't use those. I never did. Everything that I used, I back tested with, and it's worked for me all these years. But like I said, the market is a living, breathing entity, because the players in the market are human, and we are trading human emotion. Basically, that's what we're trading. So the market's going to change. It's going to adapt. If the retail traders are nailing the fund guys, or just their what do they call it? Their programs or their algorithms aren't working anymore, because they stop working. They do. And it's because we retail traders adapt. And when we adapt, they have to change. Now, I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's this movie called Margin Call. And if you've seen that movie, you understand what I'm talking about. If not, you can check it out. It's pretty intense, but it's real. I mean, it can really happen. And something that's working now, the market's going to change. It's not going to work later. Nothing works forever. You have to adapt. So this 100-day, I put on my chart, and I'm like, well, I'll be damned. That's exactly what it's doing. And it wrote, now had I been using this, I never would have shorted this. Okay, this would have kept me out of this trade. And you can see it held it all through here. And it coincided with the 5-minute opening range low. And then we started running up, and the stock went up. So I held on to it. Yeah, now if I was scared, I would have took the $70, $80 I would have had in this trade. I was in 500 shares. So I was feeling pretty sporty this morning. I was feeling pretty confident. But good thing is I stuck to my stop. And with commissions, I only lost $106 and something. So I was right on point with that. But again, this is something that you may start seeing on my charts. I'm in the process of doing back testing on it. I didn't get to spend much time this weekend on it because I made sure I was going to rest and get my head clear and get over this sickness, because it was really starting to aggravate me. But I am doing some back testing, so I'm looking at all of my trades that I've taken like this, that I've gotten in early before the 5-minute opening range low, and it didn't work. Even though it showed all its weakness at the open, and it didn't work. So I'm going back. I'm putting the 50-day and the 100-day on it to see if this is a pattern. If it is, you'll start seeing this on my charts. But that was my first trade on MAT. Now, my overtrading came on NKTR, because this was on my watch, and I chose MAT over this, when this probably would have given me a whole heck of a lot better time. But what I did was I waited till we got the retest here. And again, I didn't see the 100 here, but I put it on my chart. And thankfully I did, because I never would have taken this profit. And I'd have been out. I wouldn't have locked in as much money. So this was a solid trade here. Got it. Let's see, where was the first one? I shorted it at 38.29. First one was 37.75, which was a $0.25 mark. This was at 37.80. No, I can't remember what price this was at. But I took some at 75. And then after that, that's when I kind of drew this on here. It was like, oh, shoot. I'm going to have to take some off here. And I did. And that was a good move, because here we came back and stopped me back out. Now, this was a profit stop. Had I waited to break even, it would have come back over here and stopped me out at break even. But smart me, my in my infinite wisdom, I'm gonna short this again for some reason. And like, okay, it tapped the 200. It started to sell off again, so I'm gonna short it. And I thought I was right for a minute until I saw this 200, this 100 day again, and I was like, oh, or you know what I said. Then this was not gonna work. So I was gonna take some profit here, just never made it. Ended up stopping out here, and I turned around and shorted it here, and covered some through here. And I shorted some here. I'm still in 200 share. Okay, I shorted some here, but I had to take 100 off because I didn't want to get a margin call. So I had to take 100 off here. And I'm holding 200 overnight because I'm looking for it to close this gap up tomorrow. Or either try to close most of it up. I'm expecting it to close up. Actually, what I'm really looking for and what the sentiment that I'm getting is that this thing is going to announce a public offering, which is going to cause it to dump. But that's pure speculation. Probably something I should have done in my swing account, but this one was open. If you were in chat, you saw me, you heard me when I came back in the room about 3:30 and got this. And then I realized I was over 2-1, so I had to cover 100 shares before they covered it for me and charged me $50. But so I'm holding this overnight. We'll see. Not such a good day here. I had a solid day going until I just overtraded. This took too much of my profit away. So I only ended up with 224.78. I should have been, let's see, should have been over $300 on this. Close to 350 or 360, but gave too much of it back. And this was okay. This is right where I wanted it. If it didn't work out, that's how much I was risking, because I could have made $300-400 on it. So I was risking $100. So that wasn't bad. But we'll see what happens overnight. I did do a little bit of research on it. Did some, not only fundamentals, but did a little bit of fundamental research, and I think they're strapped for money because they had some good earnings, and the stock had been running up here. They had good earnings here. We gapped up, and then today they announced, and this is a small sample, just a small sample, maybe a half sample or a quarter sample that they announced. And for this thing gapped up, and I think they were just waiting on it because people just sold this off all day. They were just taking profit all day. And we'll see tomorrow. I think they need money. I think this company needs money, and I believe you're gonna see a public offering soon. I'm expecting it in the next day or so. But we'll see if they announce it in the morning and we get a gap down. If not, I'm gonna have a very bad day. All right, so that does it for me today. You guys take care, and we will see you bright and early in the morning.